The Elysium floated in the cosmic void, a gleaming beacon of human ambition against the dark backdrop of an uncharted nebula. Its hull, polished to a mirror-like sheen, reflected the distant stars in an almost mocking display of serenity. Inside the command center, however, chaos reigned. Red lights flashed relentlessly, and the ship's warning sirens blared with a sense of urgent dread. "Captain, incoming alien vessels detected!" Lieutenant Mira Patel's voice cut through the din with practiced calm. Her fingers danced over the console, updating data streams with rapid precision. "Energy signatures are off the charts." Captain Ethan Drake's jaw tightened as he scanned the tactical readouts. The starship's normally steady hum seemed to pulse with an unsteady rhythm. He could feel the ship's anxious energy mirrored in his own veins. "What's their status?" he barked, trying to suppress the rising tide of adrenaline. Patel's eyes, narrowed in concentration, flickered over the data. "They're Zorathian warships, sir. From the signature, they appear to be a rogue faction. No formal communication from them, just aggression." Drake's mind raced, weighing their options. The Elysium was on a delicate mission of diplomacy, intended to secure a crucial treaty with the Zorathian people. This unexpected hostility jeopardized not only the mission but also the fragile peace between their civilizations. Ambassador Leora Thorne entered the command center, her expression a mask of professional calm that barely concealed the storm of worry beneath. "Captain Drake, we must act swiftly. If we don't engage diplomatically, we risk escalating the conflict into a full-scale war." Drake turned to her, his gaze steely. "Agreed. Patel, initiate evasive maneuvers. Thorne, prepare to transmit a message to their command. We need to buy ourselves some time." "Yes, Captain," Patel replied, already shifting into high gear as she piloted the Elysium through a series of sharp, calculated maneuvers. The ship lurched and groaned as it wove through the void, evading the incoming barrages with a grace born of desperation. Thorne, meanwhile, worked feverishly at her console, crafting a message that balanced assertiveness with diplomacy. "To the Zorathian forces," she began, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. "This is Ambassador Leora Thorne of the United Earth Federation. We are prepared to discuss the situation and avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Please respond." The seconds dragged on, each moment weighted with the potential for disaster. Drake watched the view screen as Zorathian warships loomed ever closer, their dark, menacing forms contrasting sharply with the star-strewn void. The suspense was almost unbearable. "Message sent," Thorne reported, her tone tinged with both hope and apprehension. "Now we wait." Drake nodded, his mind already turning over the possible responses. "Keep me informed of any changes. Patel, stay sharp. We're not out of the woods yet." The crew's faces were a mixture of focused determination and unspoken fear as they braced for the impending reply. The Elysium's defenses hummed and flared as they prepared for the worst. A sudden, terse signal from Thorne broke the tense silence. "Captain, we have a response." The view screen flickered to life, displaying an imposing Zorathian warlord in his command chamber. His eyes, cold and unyielding, locked onto Drake's. "Human vessel, you have one chance to surrender or face annihilation. Make your choice." Drake's heart pounded, the weight of the galaxy pressing down on his shoulders. He met the warlord's gaze with a determined resolve. "We're here to negotiate, not to fight. But if it's a fight you want, we'll be ready." As the calm channel closed, the crew braced for the inevitable. The Elysium was caught in a deadly game of high-stakes diplomacy, where the line between peace and destruction was perilously thin. In the cold, vast expanse of space, with stars like distant, indifferent witnesses, Captain Drake and his crew prepared for a conflict that would test their resolve and redefine their mission. The Elysium lurched through space, its engines straining against the pressure of the approaching threat. Inside the command center, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The crew, faces set with grim determination, worked in near silence as the alien warships loomed ever closer. Captain Ethan Drake's hands gripped the edge of his console as he watched the tactical display. The Zorathian fleet was closing in with a deliberate, almost taunting slowness. Each moment stretched painfully as the Elysium evaded their attacks, the ship's shields flickering under relentless bombardment. Lieutenant Mira Patel was a whirlwind of focused activity. Her eyes darted over the readouts, her fingers flying over the controls. Captain, their ships are maintaining their formation, but they're preparing to fire again. We've got maybe a minute before they breach our defenses. Drake's gaze shifted to Ambassador Leora Thorne, who was in the midst of crafting a counteroffer. Her face, normally serene, was taut with concentration. Ambassador, what's our status on the diplomatic front? He asked, his voice a mix of hope and frustration. Thorne looked up, her eyes weary but resolute. I've drafted a message proposing a ceasefire in exchange for a negotiation on neutral ground. If we can convince them that their aggression might not be necessary, we could buy ourselves time. Time we don't have, Drake replied, shaking his head. But it's our best shot. Send it. We need to make them see we're serious about diplomacy. Patel's fingers paused over her console. Captain, the Zorathians have intercepted our message. They're demanding an immediate response or they'll escalate their attack. Drake's jaw tightened. Send our reply. Tell them we're ready to discuss terms, but they need to cease fire first. Thorne composed herself, her voice steady as she spoke. To Warlord Karak, we acknowledge your demands and are prepared to engage in urgent negotiations. We ask for an immediate halt to hostilities to facilitate these discussions. As the message was transmitted, the Elysium's crew awaited the response in breathless anticipation. The ship rocked as another volley of Zorathian fire impacted its shields, and the lights flickered ominously. Finally, the view screen crackled to life with the stern face of Warlord Karak. His voice, though distorted by static, was unmistakably menacing. Your offer is noted, human. But why should we trust that you're not using this as a ploy to delay our victory? Drake stepped forward, meeting Karak's gaze with unwavering determination. Our goal is peace, not conflict. We have nothing to gain from deceit. We are prepared to make concessions to ensure that this situation does not escalate further. Karak's eyes, cold and calculating, remained fixed on Drake. Very well. We shall meet on neutral ground. But be warned, any attempt to deceive us will be met with total annihilation. As the transmission ended, Drake let out a slow breath, turning to his crew. Prepare the shuttle for a diplomatic meeting. Patel, get us out of here. Set course for the designated rendezvous point. Understood, Captain, Patel replied, her voice tinged with relief as she navigated the ship away from the immediate danger. Thorne approached Drake, her expression a mix of hope and concern. Captain, this is our chance to defuse the situation, but we'll be entering enemy territory. We need to be prepared for anything. Drake nodded, his resolve hardening. We'll be ready. Our mission is to secure peace, no matter the risk. As the Elysium adjusted its course towards the rendezvous point, the crew braced themselves for the upcoming negotiations. The fate of their mission, and potentially the future of human-Zorathian relations, now hinged on their ability to navigate the treacherous waters of interstellar diplomacy. The stars outside seemed indifferent to the high-stakes gamble unfolding within the ship. For now, the Elysium was a lone bastion of hope and diplomacy amidst the vast, cold expanse of space. The shuttle's engines hummed softly as it approached the designated rendezvous point. The icy silence of space surrounded the vessel, broken only by the rhythmic pulses of the ship's systems and the occasional flicker of distant stars. Inside, Captain Ethan Drake and Ambassador Leora Thorne prepared for the most critical negotiation of their mission. Captain Drake sat in the shuttle's cockpit, his gaze fixed on the view screen. The Zorathian warship, a colossal and ominous structure, loomed ahead. Its dark hull was interspersed with flickering lights and strange symbols that only added to its intimidating presence. Thorne sat beside him, her face set in a mask of calm professionalism, but her fingers drummed nervously on her armrest. This is it, Drake said, his voice steady but betraying a hint of tension. We're about to enter enemy territory. Keep your communication ready and your mind sharp. Thorne nodded, her eyes reflecting the cold light of the Zorathian ship. Understood. Our objective is to gain their trust and find common ground. We must not appear weak. The shuttle docked with a shudder, and the airlock hissed as it connected with the Zorathian vessel. The door slid open, revealing a stark, metallic hallway bathed in a dim, red glow. The Zorathian ambassador, a towering figure with a regal bearing, awaited them. His eyes were cold and calculating, his posture a mixture of authority and disdain. "Welcome to the imperious, human diplomats," the Zorathian ambassador said, his voice echoing with an unspoken threat. "I am Ambassador Varric. Follow me." Drake and Thorn followed Varric through the labyrinthine corridors of the Zorathian ship. The walls, adorned with intricate alien designs, seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The air was thick with the scent of metal and a faint, acrid odor that spoke of alien technologies. As they arrived at the negotiation chamber, the room's vastness took their breath away. An immense table, hewn from a single slab of dark stone, dominated the space. The Zorathian warlord Karak reclined at the head of the table, his presence as formidable as ever. "Sit," Karak commanded, his voice rumbling like distant thunder. "Let us hear your terms." Drake and Thorn took their seats, exchanging a brief, reassuring glance. Thorn began speaking, her voice smooth and measured. "Warlord Karak, we are here to propose a ceasefire and a mutual defense pact against a common enemy we've recently identified, a rogue faction of the Zorathian Empire that threatens both our peoples." Karak's eyes narrowed, a flicker of curiosity breaking through his stern demeanor. "You claim to have identified a common enemy. Prove it." Thorn activated a hollow projector, and a three-dimensional image of a massive, menacing ship appeared in the center of the table. The ship was a dark, twisted amalgamation of alien technology, its design both alien and menacing. "This ship," Thorn continued, "belongs to the Black Syndicate, a group of mercenaries who have been wreaking havoc across several systems, including ours and yours. They possess technology capable of crippling both our fleets." Karak leaned forward, studying the projection intently. His expression was one of begrudging respect. "You have presented compelling evidence. But why should I trust that this isn't a trick to distract us from your true intentions?" Drake met Karak's gaze with unwavering confidence. "Our true intention is to secure peace and protect our people. We have nothing to gain from deception. Our survival hinges on our ability to work together." For a long moment, the room was silent, the only sound the low hum of the ship's systems. Karak's gaze flicked between Drake and Thorn, his face unreadable. Finally, he spoke. "Very well," Karak said. "We will consider this alliance. But be warned, if this proves to be a ruse, the consequences will be dire." Drake and Thorn exchanged a relieved glance as the tension in the room eased slightly. The first step towards an alliance had been taken, but the path ahead remained fraught with danger. As they left the chamber, Drake's thoughts were already on the next steps. The fragile trust they had begun to build with the Zorathians was their only hope for averting disaster. The stakes had never been higher, and every decision from now on would be critical. The cold expanse of space awaited, holding its breath as the two civilizations stood on the brink of a tentative alliance. The Elysium and the Imperius now shared a common enemy, and a shared hope for a future where peace might prevail. The stars twinkled with indifferent brilliance as the Elysium and the Imperius drifted through the cold expanse of space, their mutual goals set on tracking the Black Syndicate. The uneasy alliance between humans and Zorathians was now put to the test. Captain Ethan Drake, Ambassador Leora Thorn, and their Zorathian counterparts prepared for a confrontation that would determine their shared future. In the shuttle bay, Drake inspected his gear with meticulous care, his face a mask of determined focus. "We're about to enter the enemy's stronghold," he said, turning to Thorn and Lieutenant Patel. "This is not just a mission, it's a chance to prove our sincerity and forge a lasting alliance." Patel nodded, her gaze resolute as she checked the weapons systems. "We're ready, Captain. The Elysium will be in position to support us as needed." Thorn, looking up from her datapad, added, "The Zorathians have agreed to join us, but they're wary. We need to make sure they see our cooperation as genuine, not a tactical maneuver." The shuttle's doors slid open, revealing the foreboding structure of the Black Syndicate's base. The alien facility was a twisted amalgamation of dark, jagged metal and pulsating energy conduits, an imposing sight that sent a shiver down Thorn's spine. The air was thick with the acrid tang of synthetic fuel and ozone, mixing with the distant hum of machinery. Captain Kerak awaited them at the entrance, his imposing figure silhouetted against the base's dim lighting. His eyes, reflecting the cold glow of alien machinery, surveyed the human delegates with an unreadable expression. "You are punctual," he said, his voice a low growl. "Let us proceed." The group moved through the labyrinthine corridors of the base, their footsteps echoing ominously in the vast, metallic expanse. The Black Syndicate's base was a hive of activity, filled with roving mercenaries and alien technology that seemed almost alive. As they approached the control center, the air grew colder, and the sound of rapid, erratic beeps filled their ears. The control center was a chaotic jumble of consoles, screens, and alien symbols, with the central display showing the real-time location of the Syndicate's forces. Drake stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the central screen. "We need to disable their communications and take out their command structure. Once we do that, we can neutralize their threat." Kerak, standing close behind, scanned the displays with a keen eye. "Your plan is sound, but execution will be perilous. We have no knowledge of the base's full layout or the extent of their defenses." "Then we'll have to improvise," Drake replied, his voice steady. "Let's split up and hit their critical points simultaneously. We'll have the element of surprise on our side." As they moved into position, the base's alarms suddenly blared, and red lights began to strobe. "They're on to us!" Patel shouted through the comms. "We've triggered their security protocols!" Drake's heart raced as he sprinted through the corridors, his team close behind. "Stick to the plan! We need to get to the control room before they lock us out!" The corridors were a maze of steel and shadow, and the sound of pounding footsteps reverberated through the narrow spaces. The Black Syndicate's mercenaries, armed with energy rifles and snarling hostility, surged to intercept them. A fierce firefight erupted, with Drake and Kerak fighting side by side, their combined efforts a testament to their newfound alliance. Amid the chaos, Thorn's voice cut through the clamor. "We're almost there! Just a few more meters!" Drake and Kerak breached the control room, a flurry of activity and alien machinery swirling around them. With a final, determined push, Drake reached the central console and began typing furiously, his fingers flying over the controls. "Disabling the communication network now!" The console's lights flickered, and the central display went dark as the Black Syndicate's command structure was severed. The alarms ceased, and a tense silence fell over the base. "Good work," Kerak said, his voice carrying a note of grudging respect. "The threat is neutralized, but this alliance is far from solidified." Drake nodded, breathing heavily. "We've proven we can work together. Now it's time to build on that trust and ensure this victory is more than just a fleeting success." As they made their way back to the shuttle, the first glimmers of dawn broke over the distant horizon. The stars outside seemed to shine a little brighter, as if acknowledging the fragile hope that now bound the humans and Zorathians together. In the cold, vast expanse of space, the alliance was forged in the crucible of battle, and the path to a future of peace and cooperation lay before them. Whoa, wait a second. Before you disappear into the shadows, hit that subscribe button, or else, the next plot twist might just involve you. Don't tempt fate, it's a mischievous storyteller. Whoa, wait a second. Before you disappear into the shadows, hit that subscribe button, or else, the next plot twist might just involve you. Don't tempt fate, it's a mischievous storyteller.